Mom living on a small pension is a nuisance. I'm moving out, good luck. Is this the way to treat your mother who raised us all by herself? Their attitude is too cruel, I can't leave my mother with them any longer. I'll gladly take her in. I shouted, reaching out to hold my mother's hand. But my mother is not just a nuisance. My name is Linda. I'm a 39-year-old working housewife. I married my husband after an office romance. We have been blessed with a son and a daughter and live a happy life. My in-laws are wonderful people, and we maintain a healthy distance in our relationship. What worries me is my family. My mother. She divorced when I was little and raised 3 children on her own. It wasn't until I had 2 children of my own that I realized how hard that must have been. How challenging that must have been. If I separated from my husband right now and became single, I doubt I could raise 2 children on my own. I am nothing but grateful to my mother, who raised me and my 2 brothers so well. Now she has aged quite a bit. She worked until she was 65, so even though she's in her 70s now, she's still quite healthy and alert. But every time I see her, she seems older, which is heartbreaking. She's still living alone in our family home, but I'm starting to worry about her future. Then, one day, I got a call from her. Live with John? That's right. John suggested it, but what do you think? John is my eldest brother. It's not strange for the eldest son to live with his mother. Normally, I'd be grateful he's willing to live with our elderly mother, but I can't be entirely happy about it when it comes to John. It's because John hates our mother. When our parents divorced, I was only 3 and have little memory of our father. But John, now 46, was 10 at the time of the divorce, a tricky age just before adolescence. Maybe because of that he seems to resent our mother. I remember John always complaining that he had to leave his beloved father and that our standards dropped so he couldn't buy things he wanted. But that's not right. The divorce was a result of our father's affair, and he stopped paying child support after the first year. While I can somewhat understand John's feelings, holding a grudge against our mother even as an adult seems unreasonable. John hardly ever returns home, not for New Year's, not for any holiday. He lives close by, a 10-minute drive from our family home. John is married, but he never even introduced his wife to us. He doesn't have any children, so he's quite free, yet he hardly visits our family home and is distant from me and our younger brother Mike. Come to think of it, I can't remember my brother's wife's face. What does John look like now? Come to think of it, when was the last time I saw him? That John is suggesting that our mother move in with him? I have a bad feeling about this. Why is all of a sudden is he talking about moving in together? His current rental is up for renewal, but apparently he's been hit by a pay cut due to the economy and now they're struggling financially, so they want to live together. What? That's totally for his own convenience. I'm not surprised, that's just like John. It would be one thing if he wanted to live with our mom for her sake, but for his own housing? I'm totally against it. But in the end, it's up to Mom. What does Mom want to do? Well, it's been fine living alone, but it's getting inconvenient. Then yesterday, John and his wife came over to talk. Oh, really? John actually got down on his knees, apologizing for his past behavior and asked to make up with him. Wow, that's unexpected. Right? I was surprised too, especially since he used to hate me so much. It made me happy. Maybe John has grown up? So my mom, John, and his wife started living together. From what my mom tells me, things were fine at first. John and his wife were respectful of Mom's space and kept to themselves. But it didn't take long for their true colors to show. John's wife is so cold. Mom's calls soon turned into complaints. Emily, the wife, doesn't do anything. She's a stay-at-home wife, but she doesn't clean or do laundry. What, not even their own laundry? I've always done my own. But they started putting their laundry in my basket, expecting me to do it. She doesn't offer to help? No. It's odd to separate their clothes from mine and only do my laundry, so I end up doing it all. It's gotten to the point where my back hurts from all the extra work. Does she do any other housework? No, nothing. From what I hear, my sister-in-law Emily seems to spend her days just lazing around on the couch. All she does is eat snacks while watching TV. She doesn't clean up after herself, doesn't go shopping, and doesn't prepare meals. So, you're doing all the cleaning, shopping, and cooking for 3 people? Yes. That's ridiculous. Isn't that just freeloading, not cohabiting? It's worse than freeloading. And to top it off, they're not contributing to the grocery or utility bills. Seriously? Seriously. I'm speechless. I asked why they didn't discuss all this before moving in, and Mom just looked troubled and said, "We did talk about it beforehand." Initially, John was giving Mom the agreed amount of money. But that stopped quickly. Even when she subtly asks for it, he makes excuses like, "I had a lot of expenses this month." Or, "My salary has decreased, things are tight." If they're not paying rent or utilities or food, where's their money going? Now that I think about it, they bought a car, didn't they? Huh? If they're short on cash, why buy a car unnecessarily? It's not like they live somewhere inconvenient. I paid for it. You paid for it. I couldn't help but interject. They said going to the hospital or shopping might be tough on me and that they would take me around, but I haven't ridden in it once. I was so appalled that I called John, but he wouldn't answer at all. Then I realized he'd blocked my number. Unbelievable. A few days later, I got another call from Mom. This time, it was the shocking news that John got laid off and is now unemployed. A few more days passed, and despite my worries, Mom didn't answer my calls. Nor did she contact me. Getting anxious, I asked my husband to look after the kids and hopped on a train. If we lived closer, I could visit my parents' house more often, but because of my husband's job, we live far away. After a 2-hour train ride, I arrived at my parents' house, which I hadn't visited in a long time. Standing in front of the house, which seemed much lonelier compared to my childhood memories, I rang the doorbell. But when there was no response, I gently tried the front door and it opened easily. That meant someone must be home. But why no response? Just as I was about to call out, puzzled. Ugh. I heard a groaning sound. Definitely Mom's voice. Mom. I rushed into her room and found her lying on the floor. Mom. I felt my blood run cold. Rushing to her, I called out. And her eyes opened. Mom, are you okay? I'll call an ambulance right away. Just as I was about to dial 911, Mom stopped my hand. Mom. Ugh. What? Are you in pain? That's why I need to call an ambulance. Ugh. I wanted to call for help, but Mom, somehow still having strength, wouldn't let go of my hand. Struggling to free my hand, Mom mustered all her strength and said, "I'm hungry." Then she collapsed back onto the floor. Thanks, I haven't eaten anything since yesterday. With odd sound effects, Mom kept eating voraciously. In front of me, having hastily bought food, she devoured it with incredible speed. Even in her 70s, her appetite hadn't diminished. But this was no time to be impressed. According to Mom, John and his wife had left her, unable to move due to a sore back, and gone out to have fun. What were John and his wife thinking? As I was getting furious, suddenly there was a noise from the door. John and his wife returned. John. Leaving Mom alone with a sore back to go out? What were you thinking? Wow, you scared me. What's up, Linda? You look old. Leave me alone. You've aged too, John. Why are you here all of a sudden? Don't barge into people's houses. Mom collapsed from hunger. How would I know that? There's instant food around, right? I checked everywhere, from the fridge to the storage, and it's completely empty. You know Mom can't go shopping because of her sore back. What have you been doing? John's indifference towards Mom only fueled my anger. But it didn't seem to affect him at all. He just clicked his tongue annoyingly. Geez, you're so annoying. It's easy for you to say, you're not living with her. I heard Mom's been doing everything around the house. Well, yeah, we're living with her, so she should do that much for us. So, your wife doesn't do any housework? I glared at Emily standing behind John, and she clicked her tongue too. Geez, so annoying. We're doing her a favor by living here, she should be doing that much for us. They're such a like-minded couple. Great harmony between them. But that's not the point. Making mom do everything around the house, what's the point of living together? It's comforting to have us around in case of emergencies, right? Which mouth of yours is saying that? Now is the emergency. My anger was far from subsiding, but it was like water off a duck's back to the couple. They even looked at me annoyingly. Then John said, "Geez, you're so annoying. Mom living on a small pension is just a nuisance." What? You used that small pension to buy a car. That's only natural. I'm the eldest son, taking care of our parent. When have you ever taken care of anyone? I was yelling so much that my throat started to hurt. John, who was never close to mom, had completely changed. It's just too sad for mom. Think more about mom. Shut up, outsiders shouldn't meddle in our business. No matter what I said, John wouldn't understand. An irritated look from my brother. I thought living with mom on her pension would let us live comfortably. Never expected it to be so little. Saying that, John sighed and looked at mom with such cold eyes. Mom looked down, seeming sad. Then, with a laugh, John said, "Really, a mom with no money is just a nuisance." What? John. You can have her if she's so important to you. What? I couldn't believe it. I just wanted to believe he still had some gratitude towards our mom despite his resentment. But my hopes were cruelly crushed. I bit my lip hard and glared at John, but him and his wife just smirked. I won't let these people do whatever they want anymore. I can't let mom suffer like this. So, while glaring fiercely, I managed to smirk and said, "That's right, with you two, mom can't have a peaceful retirement. I'll gladly take care of her. Linda." To reassure my surprised mother, I smiled warmly at her. "It's okay. I feel bad for asking to leave this house, but come stay with us, mom." "But what about your husband? He's been saying it's okay if we live together." "But I thought it'd be better if John lived with you." "That's not needed anymore, right? Mom, let's live together with my family. Let me repay you for raising us." As I reached out my hand, tears quickly filled my mother's eyes. "Thank you, Linda. Hey, get out of here now. Go live your cramped life in your tiny apartment." I glared at John's words before leaving our family home with my mother. Mom's belongings had shockingly dwindled. Apparently, my lazy sister-in-law sold her stuff one after another. Unbelievable. I should have gotten her sooner. But there's no end to my regret. Yet, John's comment about my home, which he's never seen, hit a sore spot. I looked at mom apologetically. "I'm sorry, mom, for impulsively taking you with me. Our place is really small, it might be cramped. Our apartment, matching our dual income, is quite tiny. So small that we can't give our teenage kids separate rooms. How do I prepare a room for mom?" John's words hit me from behind. "Just so you know, there's no room for mom here anymore. This place is ours now." I was about to glare back at him, but suddenly, mom placed her hand over mine. "It's okay. Mom. It's okay, Linda. Let's live in a mansion together." What? I was bewildered by her sudden statement. As I looked puzzled, mom turned to John and his wife with a smile. "Thank you for everything. From now on, I'll be living in a mansion with Linda's family." What? John and his wife were equally puzzled. Without explaining, mom just said, "Goodbye," and started walking, pulling me along. What does she mean? Ha! She's probably just being a sore loser. Or maybe she's finally lost her marbles. Ignoring my brother and his wife's comments, I walked away with mom. 2 years later, an alien invasion hit our peaceful home. It was John and his wife, suddenly showing up. Who's there at this hour? I panicked and checked the monitor, only to see John and his wife. It's been a long time since I've seen them. Thinking they're as bad as burglars, I opened the door and they barged in. And the first thing they shouted was, "What the hell? It's the middle of the night. Don't scream, it's rude. Shut up. Explain what's going on. You're the loud one, also if I shut up how would I explain?" John's face turned red at my logical response. "So? What's up? Hearing this, John pointed fiercely at the house's wall and yelled. What's with this house? What do you mean? A house is a house. A casa in Spanish. I'm asking about this mansion, what's the deal? A mansion refers to a grand and luxurious house. Ugh. I was deliberately evasive in my responses, causing John to scratch his head in frustration. How could you afford such a mansion with mom's pension and your combined income? I'm struggling with no money right now. Help me out a bit. That's right, as a family we moved to a much larger house. Our previous home was like a rabbit hutch compared to it. Yes, indeed, with our income, we couldn't afford such a house even if we tried. I smiled and said to John, thanks, John. Huh? John was confused by my sudden gratitude. I repeated, really, thank you. What do you mean? Thank you for giving up mom to me. This house was built with mom's money. What? Where would she get that kind of money? Struggling to raise 3 kids, hardly saving anything, and with such a small pension. Well, it came from an inheritance. What? Didn't you know? Our grandfather, mom's dad, was quite wealthy. Now that you mention it, that sounds vaguely familiar. Mom received a substantial inheritance. That can't be. We lived quite poorly when we were kids. Mom didn't touch the inheritance out of spite against her ex-husband who didn't pay child support. She was determined to raise us on her own. I was quite surprised when I heard the amount. To think she had that and still chose a life of hardship, I can only respect her. Our life may have been poor, but it never felt terrible. She allowed me to attend the school of my choice and provided a normal life. How could you treat a mother who struggled so much for us so horribly? You kicked us out. What are you doing here at this hour of night? Get out. I pointed outside firmly, but John didn't move. Then, his wife Emily chimed in. This house belongs to mother-in-law, right? So that means it'll be ours in the future. What? Confused by her sudden claim, I frowned, and Emily looked down at me smugly. Of course, right? As an inheritance. Even if you inherit it, we're still entitled to a reserved portion. She seemed to know this much. But I wasn't about to be outdone and snorted back. Unfortunately for you, this house was given to me by mom as a gift while she's still alive. It's in my name after all. What? You can't just do that. Even as a gift, we still have rights to a reserved portion. We'll get our share. Emily, despite not working, seemed to know her way around these matters. She had a point. If mom's estate was only this mansion, and it affected John's reserved portion, he would have a claim. John could claim his share from me after mom's passing, regardless of when the gift was made. But unfortunately for them, we hadn't just defeated John. I showed them a document I had prepared for such a moment. In the middle of the conversation, my husband, sensing the atmosphere, brought out the document. Thank you to my husband, falling for you all over again. This is the statement of mom's assets. What? Firstly, this house was gifted to me before her passing. What? Then, most of the remaining cash will go to our brother Mike. What? And, the last asset is this. I pointed to the item in the document. Yes, it was the family home that John and his wife are currently occupying. You got the family home as a pre-death gift, right? Can't say you didn't receive it. The house is old, but it's in a great location and a pretty good property. You should be benefiting the most, even more than Mike, who's getting this mansion and the cash, right? I felt quite dissatisfied when the distribution was decided, but it couldn't be helped. If it meant cutting ties with them, it was a small price to pay. Mike had already agreed to it. Any complaints now? I don't know how hard their life is, but I have no sympathy for John, who forcibly evicted mom and took over the family home. Regretfully, I'll leave the family home to John. Now get out. This is the end of my ties with you. I shouted this, but John and his wife just stood there, bewildered. What now? Do you still need something? I glared at them, and John, looking around nervously, said, There's nothing left. What do you mean, nothing? The house is gone. What? Yes, I did receive the house as a pre-death gift. I changed the title to my name. So? What do you mean the house is gone? I sold it. What did you say? I sold it. That house is gone, sold. What on earth? John had apparently sold the house right after transferring the title. What was he thinking? But well, he must have made a fortune from it, so it should be fine. I had no idea why they'd barge in at this time of the night. As I stood there puzzled, John and his wife grew increasingly pale. The money from selling the house, it's all gone, used to pay off debts. What? What does that mean? I took a chance on an investment. Okay. And the investment was a total disaster. Okay. Even after selling the house and using it to pay off, it's still not enough. Okay. What should we do? Not my problem. I was speechless with astonishment. I heard that after selling the house, John managed to pay off his debts, but only returned to zero, not making any profit. Then, he foolishly invested again, leading to a colossal failure and debt struggles. Chased by debt collectors, they fled in the night. So that's why they showed up in the middle of the night. Please, hide us. Or at least help pay off the debts. There's no way I'm hiding you. You brought this on yourself. My husband and I hurriedly tried to stop my brother and his wife from entering our house. But as we were struggling... Oh, sirens. What? Suddenly, we heard the sound of police sirens. And then, a patrol car stopped in front of the house. John and his wife, seemingly guilty of something, took off running. Their behavior suggested they had done something illegal, not just failing to repay debts. It was Mom who had called the police. Having watched everything, she sadly muttered, "Did I fail in raising my children?" Later on, I received just one call from John. His wife had filed for divorce. I thought it was expected. From her perspective, without any work ethic, John had lost his usefulness. Despite not properly informing us about their marriage, he only called about the divorce, predictably asking for money. Apparently, his former wife was not so normal either. Influenced by John, or just not wanting to work, she too started investing after the divorce. Unlike that man, I have foresight, she boasted, but quickly went bankrupt and struggled with debts. Then, she desperately turned to John for help. Such foolishness. I simply told them I wanted nothing more to do with them. Today, Mom enjoys gardening in the splendid garden of her new home. She has even started a home garden, and my teenage kids are happily helping and enjoying the harvest. Mike's family occasionally stays over in our spacious home. I want this house to be a wonderful final home for Mom, where she can be happy until the end. That's my way of repaying her.